Did anything like this ever happen to you? Picture this. You're volunteering, Habitat for Humanity, something like that, trying to spruce up somebody's house in a very outback, remote, poor, rural area. And you comment on the family about the black cat, and you ask the black cat's name, and they say, "Oh, we don't like talking about that cat. There's something wrong with it." "What do you mean?" It's, "Well, when we first got the cat, it was white, and then it turned black. We don't know what to do about it, but we think it's got the devil in him." What would you say? Stay with me. I got a story to tell. Hi, I'm Jesuit Father Robert McTeigue, your host every day at the Catholic Current, coming to you from the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network. Let's take a closer look. Glad you're here. For a few weeks now, I've been offering some commentary on the suffering, pain, grief, and anguish of men in the United States and in the West, and what Christ might have to say about all of that. And I've been urged to continue. So here we go. Back to that cabin out in the woods. What was discovered later about that cat? Well, the family had a big potbelly stove, and they burned wood to keep the place warm throughout most of the year because they were way up in the hills. And they didn't have the flue all the way open. So over time, soot got into the house, and over time, turned the white cat black. Don't know how long that took, but think of that. Over time, people started to notice and notice. Think there's something wrong with the cat. Doesn't. I don't know. But no one ever actually did anything until apparently it was too late. And then people just found a way to learn to live with it, primarily by not talking about it. Sounds a lot like the situation with very many men these days, doesn't it? Sadly. A similar kind of thing. I mean, we've known in our guts for a long time that men are hard done by in our culture. We've all seen the studies about the effects of fatherless, the death of despair, the suicide, the drug addiction, the other addictions, et cetera, et cetera. Men dropping out of school, men dropping out of church, men going their own way, which usually means living in a basement somewhere, smoking dope, and giving all their time and attention to OnlyFans. And what? Nothing has really been done. And so these men, without any guidance, without any encouragement, without anyone attempting to rescue them, they're just trying to persevere. They're just trying to get through another day, schlep off to work if they have a job, which they almost certainly hate, not enough to pay the bills, not enough to start a business, not enough to buy a house, not enough to start a family. And they're changing. They're becoming darker. They're becoming deader. And if anybody notices, nobody seems to care enough to do anything about it. To say, "Are you okay? Do you need something?" Because a lot of other men are dead inside too. Well, first of all, here's some bad news, which might actually be good news. The good news is no one's coming to save us. No one is coming to our rescue. In light of recent events, especially the public murder of a family man who's got 2 young kids and a young wife, and people celebrating online, dancing over the streets of his murder because he used words that some people didn't like, that leads me to believe that no one is going to come to help us. Shortly before that, a young woman minding her own business, sitting on a train in public transportation in North Carolina, gets slaughtered like an animal. The killer said, "I got that white girl." And apparently, no motive can be assigned by the media. It's all a mystery. And even though various church bodies and bureaucracies had lots and lots and lots to say about the death of, I don't know, let me pick an arbitrary example, George Floyd, as of this recording, very many church bodies have had nothing to say about the death of Charlie Kirk and about the death of Irena Zarutska. We can scarcely bring ourselves in public to discuss what the motives might have been for that monster who shot into a church, while children were at mass. Oh, we've blamed the guns, of course. We can expect that. But as men in pain look around and say, we seem to be incapable of naming and blaming murderers, monsters. If we are that morally indifferent, that morally obtuse, if we lack the moral imagination for the most rudimentary forms of empathy, what can men expect from institutions, governments at any level, for example, academic institutions? Let's not forget, apparently, based on the data that I've seen at least, the majority of the people celebrating online the murder of Charlie Kirk were educators. Oh, and healthcare providers and law enforcement and some military as well. So the idea that someone's coming to the rescue, yeah, not so much. Looking at a website the other day of a very prominent religious body, a national conference, if you will, um, they boasted that their temporary committee on racism has become a permanent subcommittee on racism. We're saved. No, no. Guys, we're going to have to work this out on our own. You and me and Christ. We have to get together. We have to admit that a lot of men in our company, many men who hear my voice, are in pain. Their hearts are broken. They're all dressed up with no place to go. There seems to be blame and scorn heaped upon them, but nobody asking, what do you need? What do you want? How bad is the pain? So, what are we going to do about it? I don't have any magic solution. I don't have Father McTeige's 10 ways to save masculinity from a toxic culture. Number 7 will surprise you. How to avoid the masculine crisis with this one weird trick. I don't have that to offer. I can point to Christ, and I can point to a Christian history replete with heroic men, monks and soldiers and poets and artists and fathers and martyrs. So here's what we need to do. Men, we need to move beyond coping. We have to admit that no institution, almost certainly no institution, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm morally certain that no institution is coming to save men who are in pain. So it's up to us to form our own band of brothers. First, you need to get right with God. If you're Catholic, go to confession, go to confession, go to confession. Take up the scriptures. Start with the book of Job. Read Psalm 139. Read Ephesians 5, Ephesians 6, Romans 8. Start there. Find another guy, a couple of guys, couple, 2, 3 guys, and agree to make a holy hour once a week, every 2 weeks, pray the rosary together, and then go outside and do something real. Don't spend another moment staring into a screen watching sports ball. The risk of sounding like Gen Z, go out and touch grass. Let the sun hit your face. Do something real with other men. We have to figure out together how we're going to get healing. And the healing can't come unless and until we turn to Christ. There are things you can read, there are things you can do, but let's start with saying business as usual is gonna get us all killed. We can't go on like that anymore. Not only do we live in a culture that celebrates the murder of a young husband and father, that tolerates the slaughter of a young woman on a train, that becomes inarticulate when children are murdered in church. But let's remember, we live in a culture that has countenanced the slaughter of millions of children in the womb for decades. For decades. This is where we are. St. Augustine said, on the place where you have fallen, you must find the strength to rise again. Men, we've all of us in one way or another face planted into this sick and sickening culture. Don't get used to it. Don't cope. Don't numb the pain. Cry out for help. Turn to the natural and supernatural helps that are available to you. Discover the St. Michael chaplet. Discover the St. Benedict chaplet, known as the devil chaser. But do something. And if you do just one thing, then you say, oh my gosh, resistance isn't impossible and it's not a waste of time. And talk to somebody, one other man, and say, is it just me? Or is something really wrong for us? Look for the best Christian men you can find and ask for a conversation. And let's do something, something, something to build community. It might be as simple as let's go out for a cup of coffee after Mass on Sunday. If we discover that we're not alone, if you discover you're not the only one and neither am I, if we discover that the Catholic Church has been leading and guiding and forming men to become saints for centuries and millennia, then we'll discover we are not without resources, we're not without good examples, we're not without mentors and guides. I wish I could tie this all up in a bow and give you a 3-point program. I can't. But, brothers, I can tell you this: doing nothing is not an option. Business as usual will get us all killed. Please do something other than suffering in silence. Do one positive thing today in the next hour and resolve tomorrow to do something else. Get some momentum, and God will bless your efforts. Meanwhile, think on these things today, take them to prayer, and talk about it with those you love. Go in peace, and please do pray for me, for I am a sinner. Hey, we need your support. Please click on the link on the screen or in the description below so that the Station of the Cross can continue to provide you with great Catholic programming like this. Thanks for watching today. I release new videos on Mondays and Wednesdays. Check out the archives for more videos. You can listen to my podcast at stationofthecross.com, and you can find my written work at heraldofthegospel.org. See you next time.